Hey guys, welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be ranking 14 new eyeshadow palettes that I've been testing for the 2 months of May and June. In total, I tried 13 eyeshadow palettes, and let me just say, a pre-warning, not a single one of these eyeshadow palettes were bad. It was honestly a very successful couple of months worth of palette launches. So let's go ahead and get straight into it, starting off with number 13, the worst eyeshadow palette that I tried this month, which is still quite good. So this is a trio that I tried from Glossier. I had a few sent to me, and this is the shade Heather. I have a couple more that I need to test out, and I enjoy these little palettes. They aren't anything that stands out in my collection, but they are a great way to get a super simple look without having to think too hard about it. This isn't my favorite color story in the world, so I just don't see myself reaching for this too much, but this is very easy to use. I can definitely pinpoint a type of person who would enjoy this, so I don't think it's bad. It's just when it comes to this ranking, I've had 12 eyeshadow palettes that I thought were better, but this one is not bad. If you are not into doing eyeshadow, you don't like thinking too hard about a look, you're very into the monochrome, simple eyeshadow look, I do definitely recommend taking a look at the Glossier. The eyeshadows themselves are a little bit more on the sheer side. They come with a shimmer shade, which this isn't my favorite formula. I've never really been in love with this one, but I do like the matte, but it can overblend, so be careful. And normally this is kind of the star of the palette. I think they look really pretty on the eyes. It gives a glimmery effect without being too much, but for me, this is just where it fell. It's not a bad palette, but it was my favorite. Number 12 is from Milani. Again, a good palette, and I would say a great option from the drugstore. I tried this in a testing full face of nude drugstore makeup. This is the Gilded Mini in the shade Whiskey Business. This reminds me of a good Viseart palette because it just has really great basic mattes. And this is the kind of thing where if I had forgotten my eyeshadow palettes and I was traveling, I would pick this up because I'm not afraid of it breaking. It doesn't break the bank and it gets the job done. My critique on the quality is that these can overblend, and that's what I find with a lot of drugstore eyeshadows. So it looks like it would be really pigmented in the pan, but when you apply it to the eyelid, you have to keep building it up, and you almost have to press it down and not touch it, because the second you start twisting and spinning your brush, that pigment disappears. So this can be really great for beginners to eyeshadow if you aren't great at blending. However, for me, I've been doing makeup professionally. I've been wearing makeup since I was like 12 years old, so that's over 15 years. I've never really liked drugstore eyeshadows. I can tell the difference. So this is a great option from the drugstore, but I have an even better option that's very similar to this in the next couple of places. So next up we have at number 11. Like this one too, I did a full review on the new Too Faced Cosmic Crush eyeshadow palette that just launched. I would say they did a good job with this one. There was only one dud specifically in this palette that I didn't like, Frost in Space, because when I applied it on the lid, you really couldn't see it. But for the most part, I'm pretty pleased with this. Normally when it comes to Too Faced palettes, they have a lot more duds than I would like at this price point, but everything's really nice. I like how this is laid out. Neutral look. You can get a mauve look, a purple look. You can even get a smoky look. Color story wise, it's not anything really unique to Too Faced or unique to my collection, but the quality is solid and it smells good. But again, this is just where it fell. Not a bad palette at all. If you want to see my full review on it, definitely check that out. Number 10 is similar to the Milani. It's a much more expensive version, but great quality. So this is the Esum Artistry palette, balanced eyeshadow palette, and it's very similar to the Viseart palettes, right? And this is a really great curation of matte, neutral eyeshadows. These are easy to blend. Do I prefer this or Viseart? I definitely prefer Viseart. I've been using it for years. I'm more comfortable. I know what to expect with that formula. This one is a little bit more like slippery, silica based. I don't even know if there's silica in this, but it has kind of that feeling. It's not as bam pigment as the Viseart, which I think some people might prefer that about the Esum, that it doesn't give major pigment at first because it's easier to blend out, it's easier to use. So it kind of depends on your preferences. I'm more of a Viseart fan, but I think this is a great palette. It's not exciting to me, hence why it didn't come up at the top, but I do enjoy it. I know people get upset in these rankings when I talk about the color story, but I mean, this is my rankings, so where an eyeshadow color story, if I don't like it and I find it boring and uninspiring, it might rank a little lower because of that. But I always talk on the formula for you to take that knowledge and do what you want with it and make your decisions. So that brings us to number 9, which is from McGrath. It is beautiful. I was really excited about this luxury eye quad in Passion Fleur because, you know, I love pinky purpley eyeshadow palettes. So we have this purpley pinky matte shade and then 3 shimmers. Honestly, a very nice palette. You can get a very pretty look with it. Nothing extraordinary from McGrath Labs. I do like the quality, but I will admit, and this does play a factor in the ranking, I did not wear this as much as I thought I would. When I initially reviewed it, I said it was very good, and it wasn't anything exciting, but the quality was nice, but this is something that I would reach for a lot. I haven't really reached for it a lot, so I didn't want to rank it too high because it hasn't been something that's been at the top of my mind to reach for. Once this goes into my collection with my other McGrath palettes, I'll probably forget about this one. This one just doesn't stand out to me, but the quality is really nice, it's very pretty, and I like the pink packaging. Number 8 is another McGrath palette. This one is really great as well. This is the mini eyeshadow palette in Sublime Smoke. So I already had all 6 of these shades, but I really love that you can get a great McGrath formula in literally the tiniest little eyeshadow palette. I brought this with me on vacation a couple of months ago, and I think I forgot to put it in our rankings, which is why I'm putting it in this time because I did try it in the month of May. No, wait, May counts for this one. Okay, never mind. Forget I said anything. You guys see my upper lip spreading? Oh. I really love this because at the end of the day, off camera, I am a neutral eyeshadow lover, and this has everything I need. I love using this as eyeliner. I love getting a really nice, simple, neutral look. The quality on this is fantastic. I don't have anything bad to say about that. It's just when you see the palettes I'm ranking above this, you'll understand why it's on the lower half, but also it's still fantastic. Number 7 is the eyeshadow palette that I'm wearing right now. I've been reaching for this palette specifically for event makeup, for a more dramatic makeup. So this is from Glaminatrix, which is officially one of my new favorite indie makeup brands. I mean, the palettes that they have been coming out with have been so fun. So this is the Into the Night palette, and it is quite rich looking. It has a very unique color story, and I've done some interesting things with this. I've worn this to a couple beauty events, which is a big thing because, you know, I go all out for the beauty events, and I've reached for this. I've done like 4 or 5 looks with this at this point. So for today's look, I've done a look similar to this before on my channel, but I really love it. So what I did, I started off with neon lights right here, and I blended it in the outer corner and then also into my crease and along the lower lash line. This was very easy to work with. It blended out really nice. It did sheer out pretty good as well, which I think is appropriate for the level of neonness. Loved this. And then I used the shade Chaser in the outer corner to start to build up that depth. I also did apply it halfway onto my eyelid as well to have a base color down for the topper that I'm going to use later into the tutorial. And then to get the most amount of depth out of this look, because I did want some oomph, I'm using the shade Nightlife out here in the outer corner of my lower lash line and of my crease as well, just to grab that depth. These all blend very easily. And then to finish off, the last color I used was Bustling, which is a shade I don't think I've used yet. So this was my first time using it, and I just used my finger to apply that on the inner half of my eyelid and then my lower lash line as well. And I think it's so beautiful. I love the sparkles and reflex that this company uses. It's not too bam chunky glittery, but it's just enough glimmer to where the light hits it, and it looks like you know what you're doing with your makeup. So I've enjoyed my time with this. It's not one that I'm reaching for every day. It's definitely more of a special occasion palette for me, and I've had to be a little bit thoughtful about the looks that I've created when it's come to this. It's cohesive, but at the same time it's not. It takes a little bit of thought to get a cohesive look, but I've had a lot of fun with this. Number 6 is mostly for the quality because the quality is amazing. This is also from Esum. This is the counterpart to the matte palette. This is the Artistry palette in number 2 intensity. These shimmers are amazing. So you know how shimmers just apply better with the finger? This formula is so nice that it applies great with the finger still, but it applies fantastic with a brush as well. It's just one of those formulas that picks up well on a brush and still applies that full opacity onto the eyelid. And that right there knocks this up to a phenomenal shimmer formulation. Now it's not at the top because it's not often that I'm reaching for a true, just pure shimmer palette, though I do enjoy the colors. I mean, it makes sense for a neutral lover. You have champagnes, you have golds, you have cool tones, you have plums. This is a great, thoughtful palette, but I said I like Viseart mattes better, but I definitely like Esum shimmers better if they're like this. So this palette killed it, and I do love the packaging as well, even though I can't seem to figure out how to put this back on, but if I were a makeup artist still, this would be going in my kit. Next up at number 5 already? Yes, number 5. Oh, now we're on to the really competitive palettes because all of these I have had so much fun with, and I've been fighting not reaching for them every single time I use my makeup. So this is from Nomad, and this is their Safari palette. I feel like Nomad has really stepped it up. I used to find their quality wishy-washy, but these past few palettes, I've just been like, yes. And that's so exciting to me because I love the story behind the brand. I love what they base their palettes behind, and I love the color stories that they pull together. So I did a comparison directly with this against the Yucca. Listen, it's spelled Yucca. If you Google it, it's pronounced Yucca. But then I watched a tutorial where Natasha Denona called it the Yuga. So I don't know. Y'all been yelling at me if I call it Yucca or Yuga. It's one of the two. But anyways, this is very close to the Yucca palette, but the formula is very, very different. These are much more pigment packed, which is a good and a bad thing, right? Because when it comes to Natasha Denona, they apply pigmented to the eye, but they're easier to blend. This one you have to use a lighter hand with because they do have more pigment, but that doesn't mean it's any harder to use. I prefer Natasha Denona shimmers to the Nomad shimmers, but this palette, really, really fun. If you don't want to pick up indie, you want to support an indie brand, I definitely recommend this one. You can totally get the look. This one I feel like has more neutral options as well. It does have those green pops, but lots of neutral, fun, warm tone options as well. A great palette from Nomad. Love it. Number 4, anytime Odin's Eye comes out with a palette, it does end up along the top because quality, color story, packaging, they got it all. So this is from their Jewels and Gem collection, which, again, very well crafted, very well done. So this one is the Jewels palette. Oh, no, the collection was called something else, but this is the Jewels and Gem palette. And this one has more cooler tones, more purples, more pinks. I originally thought I would like this one more, but you'll see the other one, it's coming up. I liked it more than this one, but that doesn't mean I don't love this one, because this one, and the way that Odin's Eye is able to create their shimmers and keep the price point that they are at. One of my all-time favorite eyeshadow brands, hands down. They've always been, every time they launch a palette, it jumps to the top. They just do it great, so I love this one. Number 3 is the ABH Cosmos palette. I love this one. It's not as good as the couple of palettes that they've launched most recently, but they still killed it. They sent me a brand new one. That's why it looks untouched, because mine came shattered. But how beautiful is this? I love the iridescent shades in here. The thing that I would change about this palette is the mattes. I have these mattes a million times over, and I feel like these shimmers would pair better with different mattes, and you could get a lot more versatility in the palette with different mattes. Like I needed a navy, I needed a purple, I need a little bit more, not bright colors, but I need something besides brown, which is what they put in every palette. They have these mattes in so many other palettes. So it's the iridescent shades that stand out here. The mattes, not so much, but I still have had a lot of fun with it. I've loved the looks that I've created with them, really galactic. I also wore this to an event as well, and I was feeling my makeup that day. So, love this palette, but there are slight changes I would make. Number 2, I just talked about this. This is the counterpart to the Jewels and Gem. This is the Stone and Rock collection, or palette. Why did I say collection? So this one, obviously, with the launch of that Natasha Denona palette, I've been feeling greens. Normally around summertime, I'm feeling greens. So that's why I think I've been reaching for this one more. I love how rich of a look you can get with this palette because it does have a lot of deep tones, including a black. So you can go as dark to your heart's content. And then, of course, they have the amazing shimmers. They even have a duochrome. Had a lot of fun with this. It's much more different than the Natasha Denona palette, which at this point, it's number one. It's what's coming up next. I keep talking about it. I'm using it as reference points. So this actually I found was a lot different, a lot brighter. They really aren't comparable, but I've been having fun with green tones, and you know, I'm not going to talk about Odin's Eye again. Love them. Which brings us to our number one palette. To no surprise, is the Natasha Denona Yucca, whatever you want to call it, palette. I love this. I mean, I think the color story is fun, but not too fun. The quality is great, the mattes are easy to use, and the shimmers are stunning. This has been my most used palette since it's launched. Has it been a couple of months yet? I don't think so. This has been what I've been comparing all of these other palettes to, because this sets the tone for me. If you know, you know. And you know, I know some people don't think Natasha Denona's formula is worth it. It is for me. I love the formula. It sets this tone. It sets the standard. She killed it. The curation. I've done multiple videos on the palette, so if you want to check that out, feel free. But yes, it is my most used palette. I've had the most fun with it, and I just love how Natasha Denona really does go there with her colors, and it does inspire me to play with colors, which is a big thing. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed these past couple of months of rankings of 13 palettes. Every time I do this rankings, I'm like, wow, so much less palettes are launching, because I used to do this every month. And I'd have 13 to 15 palettes, and now I have to like wait for 2 months. But it allows me to really test and get into the nitty-gritty of these palettes more. So I think, you know, these rankings are more official because I've had more time with them. But okay, I'm jibber-jabbering. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you tested out any of these palettes, let me know what you think, especially if you've tested a lot. Let me know what your number one favorite palette that you tested was. So, okay, yeah, but bye. Like, subscribe to my channel. Catch you later.